Hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, I guess it is. Now we're going to look at chapter 0.2. I've got my hat on because I was out doing a little yard work, and so I'm ready to cool off a little by doing a little math. So we'll give a try to the real numbers is what we're going to be looking at. And so in chapter 0.2, they want to make sure that you know the difference between the opposite, the reciprocal, and the absolute value. And what the opposite means is just change the sign. And so if 8 is our number and we're doing the opposite, it would be -8. And if you go and you look at the definition in the book, they'll say that when you add these two numbers together, you get 0, is what they'll say, if they're opposite. So when you add two opposite numbers together, you get 0. So if you take 8, that was this number, and you add it with -8, you'll get 0. And so that's what it means to be opposite. So they were asking me, when I add, what would I add to 8 to get 0? I would add -8 to get 0. Now the reciprocal, and remember that we're going with 8, and the reciprocal, all that means is write it as a fraction and flip it. I mean, that's the simple way of doing it. So 8 would be 8 over 1. If I write it as a fraction and I flip it, I get 1/8. And if you go and you look in the book and you read about the reciprocal, they'll tell you the deal with the reciprocal is when you multiply these two numbers together. So when you multiply these two numbers together, you get 1. So my original number was 8. And the question that they were asking me to answer is, what would I multiply 8 by in order to get 1? And it is 1/8. So if I multiply 8 and 1/8, I get 1. And so the easy way is to write it as a fraction and flip it. Now the absolute value and the notation that goes with absolute value, so when they ask you for that, the absolute value of 8 is 2 bars, straight up and down bars. I kind of got mine on an angle there. Here, I'll get them where they're straight up and down. And so the absolute value of 8, that is distance from 0. So how far is 8 from 0 on the number line? And the distance is just 8. So you can look on a number line and you could say, well, here's 0 right here, and it's asking how far away is 8? What is this distance right in here? And you can count it. Well, it's 8 away. So we're going to do that with problem 28 here. So they're asking us -3/8. They have that fraction, and they're asking us for the opposite. So the opposite is, just change the sign. So it's +3/8 because it was negative, so it's positive. Reciprocal is you write it as a fraction, it's already as a fraction, and you flip it over. If it's negative, you keep it negative when you're taking the reciprocal. And if it's positive, you keep it positive. So 8 was positive, the reciprocal is positive. -3/8 is negative, the reciprocal is -3/8. If you're wondering, well, how does that work? Well, remember, when you multiply them together, you're supposed to get 1, +1. So if you take a positive and you multiply it by a positive, you can get a +1. If you take a negative, not even worried about any numbers here, just worrying about the sign to show you, a negative times a negative is a positive. But if I had one be positive and the other be negative, then I wouldn't be able to get 1. I would be getting negative something, -1 maybe, but not, I wouldn't be able to get +1. So reciprocals have the same sign. And the absolute value means make it positive. So the notation for this would be the absolute value of -3/8 with the straight up and down bars. And the absolute value says whatever you got in here, just make it positive. So this would be 3/8. And the reason that works is because it's distance again. So here I am on the number line. Here's 0, and here's -3/8. And they're asking you, how far is this? And distance ought to be positive. And so that distance is, well, 3/8. And so anyway, And then this is a problem that involves order of operation and absolute value. I was going to say absolute value first, and then I got order of operation going. And so it has both in there. And so we're going to give a try to doing it. So absolute value are a grouping symbol. So remember we had grouping symbols, and we had please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, right? So we have the PIMDAS, and we have here, and we have Jim's, whichever one you like. And absolute value, I know it doesn't look like a parenthesis, but absolute value is a grouping symbol. So actually, I'm going to be working first inside this absolute value because I come to that absolute value there. So I'm going to have 25 minus, that just comes down. And then I'm going to work inside here, and I notice when I do the please excuse my dear Aunt Sally or the gems on this, that I have a subtraction here, and I have a grouping symbol, right? So I need to do the grouping symbol. And then when I look inside this grouping symbol, so this other stuff, right? I'm going to work inside the grouping symbol. So this other stuff is all just going to come straight down. And so what am I going to do inside that grouping symbol? So inside that grouping symbol is not another grouping symbol, or not any exponents, but there is multiplication. That's 20. So 20 take away 18. And then inside that grouping symbol now is only subtraction, which is 2. So this is 25 minus absolute value of 9 minus 3 times 2. Absolute value end at minus 20 there. And so now I know a lot of people might have thought I was going to do 9 take away 3 at some point, but this always from the beginning was 9 take away 3 times whatever's inside the parenthesis. And so it was even that from here, 9 take away 3 times whatever's inside the parenthesis, and multiply becomes before that subtraction. So I was going to do that multiply from the beginning, and now I know what's inside the parenthesis. It's a 2, so I'm going to do that multiply inside there because now I'm working in the grouping symbol absolute value, and I'm going to get 6 there. So 25 take away 9 minus 6, and I'm still working inside this, and 9 take away 6 is 3, so 25 take away absolute value of 3, and that's 20. And I'm finally to a point where I can do something with the absolute value. So I couldn't do anything with the absolute value when you have something complex like this, or complex like this, or even complex like this, or even complex like this. And so now I can. The absolute value of 3 is, make it positive, is 3. So I'm going to be using absolute value of 3 is 3. And so I'm going to have 25 take away, and then I have found this absolute value, minus 3 minus 20. And then now I have no more grouping symbols. I don't have any exponents. I don't have any multiply. So I can do that subtraction left to right. So 25 take away 3, I think it's 22. And then take away 20 is 2. And the lovely thing is, and I do want you practicing these both on your calculator and by doing them by hand. And so it's good to do both, I think. And I really do like this calculator. I know I've told you guys my love for this calculator. And it's just crazy. I'm going to use this one just because all of them feel jealous. This one is a favorite calculator of mine because someone I love very much gave me this calculator, and I was sad because I had not even had it a week when in my purse it got T-boned. Something got there and broke the solar panel out of it, but it still works, and so it still means something to me. I love it so much. Okay, so all of these calculators are the same. So I know that it's a different one and different, this is the FX 991 and that's the FX 115, but they're very similar calculators to one another. These are all 115s. This one's a 300, and this one here. This I told you I have 4 up here on my desk, and I have another one over there. But these are the 3 I have that I love so much. I think the other one over there might be a 300 as well. And the 300 is a little bit cheaper than these by a tiny bit, but it has a feature that in intermediate algebra that you'll want, I think. And so I mean, if you had this in the drawer, then I'd go ahead and use it. But as far as saving the couple bucks that it saves you over these, I don't think I would do that, because this one just doesn't have, there's some buttons that we're going to want to use that this one doesn't have when we get to the intermediate algebra part of this course. So right now we're at the review, the arithmetic part of the course. We have beginning algebra part of the course to do, and then we have intermediate algebra. So if you're wondering, this class meets 9 hours a week, oh my goodness, well, that's the reason, is you're going from arithmetic to the end of intermediate algebra and ready for STEM math classes. Okay, so let's use this calculator to give a practice to it. Oh, please don't fall off there, calculator. Okay, so 25, take away, and then I want the absolute value. And if I look there, right there, ABS, it has it on there. And the other calculator has the ABS, but it's in a different location. It's pretty much the same location. It's up a row, but it says ABS, and so it's the absolute value on it as well. And so anyway, so you notice that because it's behind the button, not on the button itself, I'm going to have to do the shift because it's whatever golden color, so shift. And when I do that, it puts the absolute value in there, and the cursor's in there so that I can type what I want. 9 minus, and then 3, and then 4, I put the parenthesis in, you notice, times 5, and then minus 18, and then end. And now I want to get outside of the absolute value because I want to put in the minus 20, but the minus 20 is not in. So like if I put minus 20 in here, then that's now inside the absolute value, and I didn't want that. So you can hit the delete key and just back over that. And then what you do is you hit the arrow key, and that arrows me on the other side of the absolute value, and I can put minus 20. And then I can use this key, the arrow over key, and I can review and make sure that I have everything in there that I wanted. And so, and I got 2, and that's what I got here too, is 2. And so I think it's nice to do with your calculator and with your head, because if you get the same answer, then you don't, you know that you didn't make a mistake when you typed it in on your calculator. It makes you feel good anyway that I did it 2 different ways and got the same answer. Okay, so that's section 0.2.